This dude's a monster. And one more thing, Rick, I can tell you, just being here locally and knowing, kind of the scene of what's going on up at Hallis Hall, this hit the Bears locker room really hard.
You're undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, everything football. And we got some big news to discuss and chop up and break down here on the Playbook Show, brought to you by Ocean Casino Resorts. Let's pop up our good friend Easy E does it, Eric Edholm from NFL.com, always covering the National Football League, the NFL draft, and everything football. That's why we bring him in here on the Football Playbook. And Eric, it's been a while. We haven't spoken to you since the preseason, I believe. So buckle up. Welcome back. We always appreciate the time. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, the way Tone was talking me up, I thought I was getting like a daily seat in the chair here. I thought I was jumping on every day here. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we're getting you fitted for the JAKIB Sports yellow jacket. That's all.
All right. Yeah, XXL, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Howie Roseman is making some extra large Big Willie moves.
Yeah.
What a splash with Robert Quinn. I mean, here's a guy, 18 and a half sacks a year ago. Granted, the production was down this year. Chicago kind of trying to find themselves, and he was facing a lot of double teams. But when you inject him into a defense with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. Oh, by the way, on the interior, you have Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Javon Hargrave. I can't find. I know Dallas's defensive line is pretty good. But this just took it to a whole nother level, didn't it?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, Robert Quinn was exceptional for a bad Bears defense last year. In fact, I think, nationally, people didn't even realize just how many times he was sacking the quarterback because of how poorly the Bears were playing. The story was about Fields. It was about Matt Nagy. It was about other people. So, by the end of the year, I think a lot of people noticed, hey, man, after really a disappointing first year in Chicago after he signed that big deal, he came back and played lights out last year at an incredible level. It's not shocking that he got traded, of course, but the return, a fourth-round pick, pretty nice. As you mentioned, the depth they have and, the fact that they don't count on him to come in and play 60 snaps right away and get a sack or a sack and a half every week. They have those guys. And so, maybe the Teron Johnsons of the world take a little bit of a back seat. Robert Quinn steps in. And if you watched the game the other night against the Patriots, he was highly active. He played a really good game. So anybody worried about sack totals or, he's a forced fumble master. If you look back at his career, he's forced a ton of them. This dude's a monster. And one more thing, Rick, I can tell you just being here locally and knowing, kind of the scene of what's going on up at Hallis Hall, this hit the Bears locker room really hard. He was one of the most beloved, respected players in that locker room. And you probably heard Roquan Smith yesterday.
Saw that, yeah.
They love the guy. And I think that alone, even if he's, not a 6 or 8 sack guy down the stretch, adds something to this Eagles team.
Yeah, the fascinating thing to me, Eric, is not the fact that they only had to give up a 4th-round pick for compensation, but they actually somehow managed the Bears to pick up $7.1 million of the tab.
Yeah.
Like they're only on the hook for $700,000 this year.
Yep.
And I wonder, and I saw a quote from Ryan Poles that said, hey, the move just made too much sense not to do it. Now, I don't know. Ryan Poles, relatively young guy, maybe the youngest GM in the league. Did Howie Roseman just fleece this guy? I mean, what went on?
Yeah, the money is the part that was eyebrow raising. I didn't, when I heard about the deal and was texting with a guy before, the financial element was known or was released. I mean, I thought, okay, yeah, 4th-round pick, that's about right. Maybe you could have squeezed the 3rd out of a good team like that or something like that. Okay, fine. I kind of talked myself into it, but then when I heard that financial element of it, you say to yourself, okay, it's not just money, right? It obviously has an impact on the rest of your football team too. So a little bit surprising there. I think Chicago has another move or two in them. I don't know if that includes Roquan Smith. I don't know if, who the players involved might be, but I do know that talking to some other people, not named Ryan Poles, have said that, Chicago is very much answering the phone. So, we'll see what they do at the end of the trading period and then judge it. But I'm with you. I think that was a little bit surprising.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson, the safety, David Montgomery, the running back, maybe 2 other targets that could be on the move in Chicago. But let me ask you, since you are in Chicago, aren't you?
That's right.
So, let me ask you this then. What direction is this team headed in? Because I saw here before the Quinn deal, my understanding was they were $116 million under the cap, the most in the league. Now, Quinn, that frees up another 8.5 of debt money next year, I think. So they're probably about $125 million under the cap. The cap's going to go up another 20 or 25 million next year.
Yeah.
The Bears are going to have like 150 million to spend. I've heard conflicting reports whether or not they want to move forward with Justin Fields, but is this going to be blow it all up again, or are they going to build it around Justin Fields? Are they going to build through the draft, or are they going to spend all this money in free agency? It seems like Chicago just doesn't have any kind of identity. They just beat the Patriots. They got the same record as the Packers. Yeah. Everybody in the NFC's 500. They could still make the playoffs, and here they are just giving people away.
Yeah, it's, obviously it looks a little bad after their most impressive victory of the season Monday night, to be in sell mode. But I think Bears fans understand there is a cap to what this team can achieve, and then that they're not going to run for 240 yards every single game and create those turnovers on defense and have that kind of performance week in and week out. We've seen enough prior to this point to know that they're capable of blowing leads, of getting stuck in the mud offensively. Early in games, getting Fields in rhythm has been an issue at times. He's had some second halves, and he's had some periods later in games where you see him, settling in a little bit. Kind of reminded me a little bit of what we saw out of Hurts, his first and part of his second year too, where you had to help him along a little, right? So I think the Bears view it probably similarly to what the Eagles did with Hurts, in the sense that they're going to give him another year. I would be shocked unless an unusual opportunity crosses their path, something they can't turn down, to use Ryan Poles' language. I think they're going with Fields. I think they're going to try to rebuild that offensive line, which has been an issue at times, and then replace some of the parts on defense with younger bodies.
Talking to Eric Edholm, who's there in Chicago. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, but I know you're ready for it. I'm going to put you on the spot because a lot of people think CJ Stroud arguably is the number one quarterback prospect. And, I was a pretty big supporter of Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
There. I like what I've seen. I mean, there's been some ugliness, but I also feel like he's constantly running around for his life.
Right.
But if you were, to kind of fast forward to CJ Stroud and go back and rewind to Justin Fields, I'll go first. I view Justin Fields as the higher rated prospect coming out of college. Where do you see the two Ohio State signal callers coming out as a prospect?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really interesting. Obviously, Stroud is not the runner, creator, elusive kind of player that Justin Fields is, but he's got a calmness and sort of a command back there in the pocket, I think, that is ahead of where Fields might have been. Fields' anticipation was, I think, one of the issues, coming out. It was a tick slow or a half tick slow, and it just seemed like he needed to see color flash before he made decisions and stuff. The anticipation stuff was a little lacking at times. So, I think that's a good question. There are times when Stroud looks absolutely tremendous, and then there are times when I'm underwhelmed, and he's a little bit of hot and cold too. By the end of the game, obviously, with those receivers, that system, Ryan Day, everything they do there, it's almost impossible not to have a good statistical game. But when you do drill down on him, there are some questions about, how much he'll be a lightning quick processor at the next level. I think he's good. I think he realizes, there's probably some room for growth in that area. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't quite made up my mind on that one yet, but I think I'm leaning toward your opinion on that.
Yeah, it's something to think about. A lot of people think Stroud is the best quarterback for whatever it's worth. I like Bryce Young, but then I'm concerned about the durability and the height.
Yeah.
And, Hendon Hooker and Will Levis are going at it this week. Another good looking matchup. But we'll save those conversations for January. Right now, we're still in the midst of an undefeated Eagles season. So let me ask you about some other potential names who could be on the move. There is talk now that Howie Roseman has turned his attention to Alvin Kamara.
Wow.
I mean, and we know he has a pending legal issue kind of hanging over his head. I don't think anything is going to happen in terms of ramifications this season.
I agree.
But is this the next big domino to fall, and what kind of impact would that have?
Yeah, and Alvin Kamara fan club here. I loved him coming out. I've loved him in the NFL for a long time. He was extremely durable. I know that, has changed a little bit the last couple of years, but his elusiveness, his gear changing ability, his ability to catch the football, play in a number of different spots, I think is really important. Is it a little bit of a luxury? Perhaps. I understand there's some frustration with how the Eagles use their backs sometimes, but Miles, I think, has been pretty darn good this year, but adding one more option, if you say that, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert are their three, most trusted pass catchers, and obviously the three busiest guys too, I believe, with Sanders being, I think, a distant fourth in my mind. You can make the argument that adding one extra receiving threat to the building and preserving his, not having to use him as much as the Saints sometimes do when he's healthy, when he's out there, that's really attractive right there. He also, he expressed his frustration after the loss last week and kind of gave an emotional locker room speech that some people interpreted as not necessarily a goodbye, but kind of a, I'm sort of fed up here. Like, let's go. We don't have Drew Brees. We don't have Sean Payton. We still got to win, right? We're not just sitting back. So who knows what happens with that? But boy, wouldn't that be something else? And just think, the Eagles have targeted their guys this year and found what they wanted through the draft and everything else. AJ Brown, if it all comes together, it would really be thrilling from a team building standpoint.
Yeah, and I think you make some valid points about Kamara there because, listen, every week we don't know. They don't even know. Is it Winston? Right. Is it Andy Dalton? Is it Taysom Hill, their quarterback? And
yep.
I think now the rookie receiver's hurt. Michael Thomas, we already know, like, he only plays when he feels like it. And when the Saints aren't winning, it doesn't seem like he wants to be motivated. So I could see the writing on the wall for an Alvin Kamara. Also, talking to Eric Edholm, NFL.com, a lot of other names being mentioned. I just saw a report during the commercial break. Cam Akers is being close to being dealt. Is that a guy that has something left in the tank that can inject something into someone's offense?
Yeah, and I was a big Akers fan coming out. I really felt good about him. Now, obviously, his career has kind of gone sideways a little bit, and there's been this tension with Sean McVay, and his usage and his whole situation there has gotten a little bit sort of prickly and precarious, I'd say. But they've only hurt his trade value, I think, by airing this public laundry, if you will. And I would say, that's probably the more attainable, easier to get target of the two. I think, Kamara would cost more, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Obviously, the money is a factor too, and Kamara would cost way more. But I could see Akers being, coming for relatively cheap. And, here's a back who is a, high school quarterback, has some throwing ability, does a lot of different things. You can have fun with this guy. But it did feel like Sean McVay wasn't using him to the best of his ability. And that's absolutely a fallback option I could see playing out.
Yeah. And I just wonder though, like, to your point, they're airing out his dirty laundry. They're saying it's like more mental than it is physical.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, like, how is that going to translate in Philadelphia? Because, he fumbles the ball and suddenly there's 20 reporters hovering around his locker. I don't know if Cam Akers is the right ingredient. Alvin Kamara, I think, is the luxury piece that really puts them over the top. And I'll throw a couple other names out to you, not necessarily for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's some names being rumored. Yeah. A lot of people in the chat are liking Elijah Moore from the Jets, who's in the doghouse there, was over there at Ole Miss during the same time as A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. I don't know what your take was coming out. I wasn't a huge fan. I thought he kind of lacked some of that ability to separate Eric, but
yes,
he's out there. I don't know if you want to give something up for an Elijah Moore when you can sign Odell Beckham Jr. off the street and not give up any compensation. I've had people giving me that argument. Hey, we've already got Quez Watkins, but whether it's the Eagles or somebody else, is Elijah Moore getting moved at this point, do you think?
Yeah, it could be, right? I mean, they sat him down after the trade request and went to Denzel Mims, who previously requested a trade. So, not the only guy there who's kind of frustrated with his role. And, it's been tough. Obviously, they haven't been able to complete a lot of passes, and we'll see, obviously, going forward without Breece Hall. That's going to be fascinating. But I could see it. I don't think Joe's going to give them away, though. I mean, it's a tough spot for them because they're clearly in it to try to win. I mean, we've heard whispers that the Giants at 6-1 with better record are maybe kind of laying low at the trade deadline. They're going to just sort of play it out. And, I understand that approach. I get it. Even if your fans certainly feel like, this is our one, we haven't been this good in a while. Let's take advantage. On the Jets side of things, obviously, we saw they were already being aggressive. They lose Ali Vera-Tucker. They lose Breece Hall. They go out and get James Robinson. I think Elijah Moore is an interesting enough trade piece where if you don't want to relinquish draft picks or, you feel like there's a player on the other side of the ball, let's say, that you can get, this might be the one to do. But I am worried about that offensive line in New York. I mean, if they feel like they can get OL help, maybe that's the route that they go for trading Moore.
Yeah, Andre Dillard could be had here in Philadelphia. Yeah. So, hey, we'll see what happens there. Kareem Hunt, another name being mentioned on the NFL trade deadline. And, I want to shift it up, though, because you mentioned the Giants. They're riding high. And Carl Banks made an interesting comment that just continues to resonate with me. Like, this was not just a rebuild or a renovation. This was a reconstruction of the entire organization. So even though they've got this great 6-1 record, nobody expected this. They're playing above their heads. But here we are. I mean, listen, they can go 4-6, play losing football, still win double digits.
It's crazy.
Everybody was calling them the NFC least. Dare I say you're going to see 3 teams from this division now in the playoffs? Is that a possibility? How big a possibility do you think?
I tell people this all the time. I said, today's princes are tomorrow's paupers, right? I mean, you're in the NFL, especially, especially compared to other sports, like, your strengths today as a football team are going to be your weaknesses before you know it, right? Everything changes so constantly. And yeah, I mean, other than that one loss to Dallas, was it? They lost to Dallas, at home. And boy, they're 3-0 on the road. They've won 4 straight. They've all been close. They've all been nail biters. But this has kind of built some skin up on this team. I think some tough layer on the outside that they play good situational football late in games, right? Out executing the Ravens in the fourth quarter, right? Flipping a deficit into a lead. Last week at Jacksonville, granted they had to hold on, but Daniel Jones comes down and drives them down the field. Like you said, all they have to do to win 10 games, and it doesn't appear to be a really deep NFC side of the equation, is go 4-6 down the stretch. 6-1 teams. I think the last one not to make the playoffs was the Falcons in 2015. I want to say they ended up like 8-8 or something like that. So, yeah, they're thinking of themselves as contenders. Cowboys, we know, are obviously very much in the thick of it. Eagles aren't going anywhere. So wouldn't be shocking at all. Can you imagine the NFC West being a one-bid division after we praised them up and down this offseason? And what if that team's Seattle? Right?
That's the thing. They're all hunting for the Seahawks, right? Like it's
unbelievable.
Just unbelievable.
I wouldn't say this has been a great season so far, but it has been a weird one. No doubt about that.
It's been a season of mediocrity.
I agree.
It really has, because I can't recall a year when there's been such few contenders, right?
Yep.
Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but like it's the Bills, it's the Chiefs, it's the Eagles, and then there's everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you put anybody else? I mean, I liked the Bengals before the season. They're starting to come back to life, but I wouldn't put them in that class or category just yet. Is there a team that I'm sleeping on that we're not giving the right proper amount of respect? The Vikings, to me, are frauds.
Yeah, they've had incredible luck because, quarterbacks they faced, injuries, things like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I suppose Dallas with a healthy Dak could make a run because of that defense, but I still have my hesitations. San Francisco, when they get healthy, I think has a chance. I would put them in that discussion. Do I feel great about the Rams? No, but I didn't feel great about them at the end of November last year. So, I think they didn't have a win in the entire month of November. So it was a very strange year, path to the Super Bowl for them last year. But you're right. I mean, I suppose Tampa Bay or Green Bay could suddenly come to life. Maybe there's another team lying in the weeds that I'm forgetting about here. Bengals are a good one you mentioned. I guess Chargers are above 500 still. So, yeah, right now, that's what it feels like. We'll see, a month from now if that changes. It very well could.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've been plotting and planning the funerals of two quarterbacks this week, one of them being tonight with Tom Brady and the Baltimore Ravens. I think this could get ugly. And then the other one being Sunday night with Aaron Rodgers being a double-digit dog for the first time in his life. I don't know. I see his comments on the Pat McAfee show. I get it. He's just answering the question. But, if you've got that many issues with your teammates and your coaches, why not settle that behind closed doors? To me, Aaron Rodgers has always got his fingers pointed out at somebody else's direction. When you're the quarterback, look at Jalen Hurts. He would never say such things. Right. Accountability has to stop and end with the quarterback. And here he is saying, these guys aren't ready. They don't know the playbook. They shouldn't be out there. But at the end of the day, as long as Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay and Tom Brady's down there in Tampa, they're going to be in the conversation. What do you think of these two quarterbacks? What do you make of the odds of how far they can go? And am I speaking the truth when I say, hey, we could see two funerals this week?
Yeah. I mean, Brady said, I'm not quitting. I can't believe we even got to the point where we talked about the possibility of Tom Brady just walking away and be like, you know what, I got these family issues. And, it was just an inconceivable idea to even broach in the first place. And it's gotten to the point where Brady's have to say now, I'm not walking away. I made a commitment. I'm here. I'm finishing this thing off, whatever that means. Likely this is the end. So, yeah, they lose this game. Green Bay gets throttled against the Bills. Where do you go from there, right? I mean, obviously, you still have room to make it up. We talked about how the NFC field feels like it's potentially wide open in a lot of ways. You can't give up on them, but could it be the first toss of dirt onto the grave? Absolutely. And yeah, you're right about the Rodgers stuff. If you're able to go in front of your team behind closed doors and say, hey, look, here's what I've got to get better at. And also here's what we need you guys to go. I think there's enough respect for that, but sort of dealing through the media. Again, I'm glad that Rodgers feels comfortable enough to talk to somebody in the media about this, and I hope other players can too. But at the same time, there are certain topics that don't go over well in the locker room when they're first kind of aired publicly, and it gets back to them.
Yeah, I saw Matt LaFleur come out and say yesterday, sometimes the truth hurts. I don't know. I see here too, Rodgers is now starting to do the Tom Brady regimen where he's taking the last 3 Wednesdays off. So I think word got back to Rodgers that, hey, did you know Tommy Boy doesn't practice on Wednesdays? And I think,
what?
So. Why am I got to practice then on Wednesday?
I should have thought of that.
I don't know. You're right, though. It's been a topsy-tipsy-turvy kind of season. As I sit here and talk to you today, I know we got a preseason Super Bowl guess. Has it changed? Has it wavered? Is it the Eagles and somebody else? Who do you like so far?
So, yeah, I made a rule years ago. I said I refuse to update my preseason Super Bowl prediction until one or more of my Super Bowl teams are eliminated from the postseason. That's my rule. I've stuck with it. It's funny now because they're one of the teams is completely different. I had Buffalo Bills beating San Francisco 49ers because I thought, I don't really know who the cream of the crop is in the NFC. Let's pick a team that has some quarterback stability, meaning Trey Lance was going to be the starter and they had Jimmy as the backup. Boy, that's a pretty good situation, I think. And then the defense as well. And then we knew they could run the football. And, Robbie Gould makes 95% of his kicks. I thought it's not a sexy pick, but that's what I felt. Now, obviously, things have changed dramatically. Lance hurt, McCaffrey in, other guys have been injured. It's not at the same team we saw in August, but I still feel relatively okay about their ability to compete, especially I don't think Seattle is going to last in that first spot. We know that LA is going to be a tough out at some point, but, they've had 8-8 seasons too. So I could see that being the case. There does seem to be more than just a Super Bowl hangover there. So I feel okay about their ability to win the division. Beyond that, a lot of finger crossing going on.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm actually starting to become a believer in the Seahawks, Eric. I didn't think I was going to be.
Yeah.
But they're clicking on all cylinders. And I know DK Metcalf just had a big injury, but I'll tell you what, I will put them as my Cinderella team in the NFC. So there's my hot take for today.
If they get defense, man, if they get better on that side of the ball, it'll be really interesting.
Tariq Woolen, he looks like a good one.
Yep.
By the way, I see here a headline just come down to what Aaron Rodgers doubles down. I'm calling things the way I see it. So he continues to take that stance. We'll see how it all unfolds. We'll see if it makes Eric Edholm's report over there at the NFL.com. What do you got cooking up for us over there?
Yeah, we got some Thursday night football tonight. I'm kind of the Thursday night guy. I've been doing, my thoughts on all those games. I've got, let's see, I'm going to be grading all the trade deadline deals, grading the trades, if you will. Started work on that now. Obviously got a little more work with the Quinn trade happening. And so next week we'll get that out and starting to get the ball finally rolling on some draft stuff too. Got to wait a little bit because we like to hold back a little at NFL.com. We don't want to just sort of force feed you early in the season and then everything's forgotten. So we'll get around to it.
We don't want to let Chad out of the cave too early.
Right? Chad does need a little daylight. I think he does play golf though. I'll give him. He's been out there playing a lot of golf lately, so that's good.
All right, we'll have to check in with that guy Chad Ryder. By the way, I had to depart the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl scouting meetings this morning to come and host this show and chop it up here with you. So I know you and I will be talking a lot more NFL draft off the air, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the air, and can't wait to link up on the scouting trails during the draft season and link up for a meal or two. So always appreciate the time, Eric. We'll make sure to follow you on Twitter at Eric_Edholm, of course, NFL.com, and we'll see you soon.
All right. See you, Rick. See you, Tone.